Here's something that will sound absolutely backward to your logical mind. Every great breakthrough I've witnessed in 30 years of studying the subconscious mind came not when someone worked harder, but when they finally stopped working altogether. The woman who found her perfect husband, when she quit desperately dating. The businessman, who landed his biggest deal after he released his anxiety about it. The healing that happened when the patient stopped fighting the illness and surrendered to a higher intelligence. This isn't coincidence, my friend. This is law. Divine law. And the reason 90% of people never experience it is because it requires something that terrifies the human ego, doing absolutely nothing, while everything you want comes to you. Sound impossible? That's your ego talking. Your subconscious mind knows better. Right now, you're exhausted. Aren't you? You've been carrying the weight of your world on your shoulders, convinced that if you just try harder, plan better, control more, things will finally work out. But they haven't. Or maybe they have in small ways, but never with the ease and flow you see in others. You lie awake at night, running through scenarios, trying to figure out the next move, the right strategy. Your mind never stops. And beneath all that activity is a gnawing anxiety. What if I'm not doing enough? What if I miss the opportunity? What if I fail? My friend, I know this weariness intimately. I've counseled thousands of people over the years, and I see the same pattern over and over again. People pushing, striving, forcing, trying to make things happen through sheer willpower, and they're suffering. Not because they're not trying hard enough, but because they're trying too hard in the wrong way. You weren't designed to live this way. You weren't designed to carry the burden of making everything happen through your limited conscious mind alone. There's a power within you, right now, in this very moment, that's infinitely more intelligent than your conscious thinking. It's the same power that beats your heart without you having to think about it. The same power that heals a cut on your finger while you sleep. The same power that digests your food, grows your hair, and orchestrates the trillions of cellular processes happening in your body every single second. And here's what most people never realize. This same power can orchestrate your circumstances, arrange your opportunities, and bring your desires into manifestation. But it can only do this when you get out of its way. In this teaching today, you're going to discover why your subconscious mind, the most powerful force in your life, responds not to your frantic effort, but to your peaceful surrender. You'll understand why the Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God," and why every mystical tradition from the ancient Taoists to the Christian mystics speaks of letting go. But more than understanding it intellectually, you'll learn exactly how to practice it. You'll walk away with a method, a daily practice, a way of relating to your desires that removes the burden from your shoulders and places it where it belongs, in the hands of infinite intelligence. I'm going to address directly the core pain points that brought you to this teaching today. The exhaustion of constant doing without results. The anxiety that nothing will happen unless you force it. The confusion about how to let go when your problems feel so urgent. The fear that surrender means giving up on your dreams. And the frustration of watching other people succeed effortlessly while you struggle and strain. I see you. I understand. And I'm here to show you a different way. Now, I've spent my life studying the subconscious mind, working with thousands of individuals from all walks of life, witnessing miracle after miracle. Not because I'm special or gifted in any supernatural way, but because I've learned to cooperate with a law that works for everyone who understands it. I'm not asking you to believe me on blind faith. I'm asking you to test it in your own life. Starting today. Most people think surrender means passivity. They think doing nothing means being lazy or irresponsible. This is completely false, and it's the misconception that keeps people trapped in struggle. Divine surrender is the most powerful form of action because it's aligning yourself with the very power that grows the trees, heals the body, and orchestrates galaxies. When you surrender, you're not giving up. You're plugging into an intelligence that knows more than your conscious mind ever could. I know you're tired of the struggle. I know part of you is afraid to let go because control is all you've ever known. It's what society taught you. Work hard, make it happen, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And there's truth in action and effort, but not the kind of anxious, forced action that exhausts you. What if I told you that just beyond that fear is a peace so profound, A flow so natural that you'll look back and wonder why you resisted it for so long. That's what I want for you. That's what's possible for you. And it begins right now, in this moment, as you open yourself to a new understanding. Now, before I explain the mechanics of how this law works, let me share with you some real experiences. Some from my own life, some from people I've counseled, that will show you the law of divine surrender in action, because you need to see it working before your logical mind will fully accept it. Stories have a way of bypassing our intellectual resistance and speaking directly to the deeper knowing within us. So let me paint these pictures for you in vivid detail, because these are not just stories, they're testimonies to a law as reliable as gravity. A woman came to see me several years ago. She was in her late 30s, and she was desperate to find a husband. Now, this wasn't just a casual desire for her. She felt like time was running out. Every birthday that passed felt like another door closing. She'd tried everything. Every dating service available. Every social event. Every technique she'd read about in books and magazines. She was working at finding love like it was a full-time job. She had profiles on every dating platform. She attended singles events, even when she was exhausted from work. She asked every friend and family member if they knew anyone she could meet. Her entire life had become organized around this one desperate goal. And with each failed relationship, with each man who wasn't right, her anxiety grew stronger. She became more desperate, more controlling, more forceful in her approach. She'd meet someone, and immediately start planning the future, trying to make them into her ideal partner, pushing for commitment before the relationship had time to breathe. And of course, the more desperate she became, the more she pushed away the very thing she wanted. Men could sense her desperation. They could feel her need. And it made them uncomfortable. It made them run. When she sat in my office, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the dark circles, the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands gripped her purse, like she was holding on for dear life. She said to me, "Dr. Murphy, I don't know what else to do. I'm doing everything I can possibly think of. I'm trying so hard. What am I doing wrong?" And I looked at her with compassion, with real understanding of her pain, and I said something that made her initially angry. I said, "Then stop doing everything. Stop trying so hard. Surrender your desire completely." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Her face went from hopeful to confused, to almost hostile. She said, "What do you mean stop? If I stop looking, I'll never find anyone. I'll be alone forever. All these other women out there are looking, competing. If I give up now, I'll lose my chance." And I could see the fear behind her words. The fear of being alone. The fear of missing out. The fear that she wasn't enough, unless she had a partner. I explained to her what I'm going to explain to you today. I said, "You're not giving up. You're giving over. There's a difference. You're handing your desire to a power that can arrange circumstances you cannot arrange. Your conscious mind can only see the men you meet at work, at these events you're forcing yourself to attend, on these dating apps. But your subconscious mind, which is connected to all minds, which is connected to infinite intelligence, can see every person in your city, every possible connection, every potential meeting that could lead to love. But you're blocking it with your desperation. You're blocking it with your need. You're blocking it with your trying." I taught her to surrender her desire completely, to her subconscious mind, to infinite intelligence. Every night before sleep, she was to get comfortable in bed, close her eyes, and say with deep feeling, "Divine intelligence within me now brings me my perfect mate, someone perfectly suited to me in every way. Someone who loves me as I am. Someone with whom I can build a beautiful life. I release all concern about how or when this will happen. I release all need to force this or make this happen. I trust completely that it is already done in the invisible realm, and it will manifest in perfect timing." And then she was to let it go. Completely. To stop the desperate searching, the anxious planning, the forced effort. She was to go about her life with peace and trust. Now, this was incredibly difficult for her at first. Her ego mind kept trying to take back control. She'd wake up and immediately want to check her dating apps. She'd see a friend's wedding photo, and feel panic rising. She'd catch herself making plans, scheming about how to meet someone. But each time, she'd remember to surrender again, to release the burden back to the power within her. She'd take a breath and say, "I surrender this. I trust divine intelligence." And something began to shift. The anxiety started to dissolve. She began to feel lighter, freer. She started doing things she'd neglected, while obsessively searching, reading books she enjoyed, taking a painting class she'd always wanted to try, spending quality time with friends, without treating them as networking opportunities for meeting men. 3 months later, she attended her niece's school event. A little school play, nothing special. She wasn't looking for love. She wasn't on the hunt. She was simply present, enjoying watching her niece perform, feeling grateful to be there. And there she met a widower, whose daughter was in the same class as her niece. They were both sitting in the audience, and afterwards, at the reception, where parents were mingling, they struck up a conversation about how talented the children were. It was natural, easy, unforced. There was no desperation in her. No trying to impress. No calculating whether he was marriage material. Just two people connecting authentically over a shared moment. That conversation led to coffee the following week. Coffee led to more meetings. And she told me later that what struck her most was how effortless it all felt. How different it was from every forced connection she'd tried to make. This man was kind, patient, emotionally available. He'd done his healing work after losing his wife. He was ready for love again. And so was she, because she'd finally released her desperate grasping. A year later, they were married. And when she called to tell me the news, her voice was filled with joy and wonder. She said, "Dr. Murphy, he came to me from a direction I never would have thought to look. I never would have orchestrated this meeting in a million years. I wasn't even trying that day." That's exactly the point. Her conscious mind couldn't have arranged it. Her desperate searching had been looking in all the wrong places. But when she surrendered to the intelligence within her subconscious mind, which is connected to all minds, which sees all possibilities, which can orchestrate circumstances that seem miraculous, that's when her desire manifested. Not through her forcing, but through her surrender. Let me share another story with you, because I want you to see this law working in different areas of life. There was a man who came to my lectures regularly, a business owner who was watching his company fail. He'd built this business from nothing, poured his heart and soul into it for years. It had been his dream, his purpose, his identity. But for the past 3 years, it had been declining steadily. Sales were dropping. Competition was increasing. Overhead costs were rising. He was losing customers to newer, more innovative competitors. And his response to all this was to work harder. Much harder. He was working 18-hour days, barely sleeping, barely eating properly. He was micromanaging every single detail of the business, because he was convinced that if he didn't control everything, it would all fall apart. He couldn't delegate. When employees would make suggestions, he'd dismiss them, or redo their work, because it wasn't exactly how he wanted it. He couldn't trust anyone else to do things right. It had to be him, always him. He was the first one in the office, every morning, and the last one to leave every night. He took his work home. He answered emails at midnight. He couldn't turn off his mind even when he tried to rest. His health began to suffer. The stress was literally killing him. He developed high blood pressure, chronic headaches, stomach problems. He wasn't sleeping more than 3 or 4 hours a night. His wife was worried. His children barely saw him. His doctor warned him repeatedly that if he didn't slow down, he was headed for a serious health crisis, possibly a heart attack. But he felt trapped. He'd say to me, "Dr. Murphy, I hear what you're saying about surrender, but I can't apply it to my situation. If I stop, the business dies. I have 20 employees depending on me. I have obligations. I have a mortgage on the building. I have suppliers who need to be paid. I have no choice but to keep pushing." And I would tell him, "You do have a choice. You're choosing to carry a burden that's too heavy for any one person. You're choosing not to trust the intelligence within you and within your employees. You're choosing to believe that you're the only one who can save this company. And that belief is based on ego, not on truth. But he couldn't hear it yet. Fear had such a grip on him that surrender seemed impossible. It seemed like giving up. It seemed like failure. So he continued his exhausting pattern, pushing himself harder and harder, trying to control more and more, while his health deteriorated and his business continued to decline despite all his efforts. Finally, his body made the choice for him. One day at work, while he was in the middle of a heated conversation with a supplier, he collapsed. Just completely gave out. His employees called an ambulance. They rushed him to the hospital. It wasn't a heart attack, thank God, but his body had completely shut down from exhaustion and stress. The doctor was stern with him this time. Absolute bed rest for 6 weeks minimum. No work. No phone calls. No emails. No involvement with the business whatsoever. If you don't comply, the doctor told him, next time, it will be your heart. He had no choice now. Surrender was forced upon him. And you know what happened during those 6 weeks? The business didn't die. His employees, who he'd been micromanaging and not trusting all this time, stepped up. Without him hovering over them, controlling every decision, second-guessing every choice, they thrived. They had a meeting that first week and divided up responsibilities. They made decisions. They solved problems. They came up with innovations he'd never considered because he'd never given them the space to think creatively. One of his employees suggested a new marketing approach that he'd dismissed months ago. Without him there to shut it down, they tried it. It worked brilliantly. They started getting new customers. Another employee streamlined a production process that saved time and money. A third employee negotiated better terms with a supplier, something he'd thought impossible. The business not only survived those 6 weeks, it began to flourish. Sales started increasing. Employee morale improved dramatically. Customers noticed the better service and energy. When he recovered and returned to work, he was a changed man. He walked into his office, expecting to find chaos and disaster, expecting to have to fix everything and save the day. Instead, he found a smoothly running operation that was actually performing better than when he'd been in control. It was humbling. It was shocking. It was life-changing. He'd learned the hard way what I'd been trying to teach him. His controlling was the problem, not the solution. His refusal to surrender, to trust, to let go, was strangling the very thing he was trying to save. From that point forward, he practiced conscious surrender. He still worked, still contributed his vision and leadership, but from a completely different place. He delegated. He trusted his team. He asked for input and actually listened. He worked reasonable hours and went home to his family. And here's the miraculous part. The business grew beyond what it had been even in its best years before the decline. Within 2 years, they'd expanded to a second location. Within 5 years, he sold the company for more money than he'd ever dreamed possible. And he told me, Dr. Murphy, I spent 3 years nearly killing myself trying to save that business through control and force, and it kept declining. I spent 6 weeks in forced surrender, and it turned around. Then I spent the next few years in conscious surrender, trusting my team and trusting the intelligence within me to guide decisions, and it flourished beyond my wildest expectations. You see, sometimes life forces us to surrender when we won't do it willingly. Crisis becomes the teacher when we refuse to learn through choice. It's better, far better, to surrender consciously and peacefully than to have surrender forced upon us through collapse, illness, or disaster. This is what I want to teach you. How to surrender before you hit the wall. How to let go before life makes you let go. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me with a chronic illness. She'd been suffering for 5 years, with a condition that doctors could help manage, but not cure. She had chronic fatigue, joint pain, digestive issues, and a host of other symptoms that made her daily life difficult. She'd been to specialist after specialist. She'd tried medication after medication. Some things helped temporarily, but nothing resolved the underlying condition. And every single day, she was fighting it mentally and emotionally. She saw her illness as an enemy to be battled. Every morning, she'd wake up and immediately check how she felt, cataloging every ache and pain with dread. She'd look in the mirror and see a sick person. She'd think about her illness constantly. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? How do I fight this? What can I do to make it go away? When will I get better? Will I ever get better? The mental warfare was exhausting her even more than the physical symptoms. She was in constant resistance, constant struggle, constant fear, and the more she fought, the more she focused on the illness, the worse she seemed to feel. She was caught in a vicious cycle. The illness made her anxious. The anxiety made her focus on the illness. The focus on the illness made her notice every tiny symptom. Noticing every symptom increased her anxiety. Around and around she went, spiraling downward. She came to my lecture one evening looking defeated. She said, "Dr. Murphy, I'm so tired of fighting. I'm so tired of being sick. I've tried everything. Nothing works." I taught her a principle that changed everything for her. I said, "Stop fighting. Your body has an innate healing intelligence. Right now, while we're sitting here talking, your body is performing millions of healing functions. Cuts are healing, cells are being replaced. Your immune system is working. Your heart is beating perfectly, without your conscious direction. There's a wisdom in your body that knows how to restore you to health. This wisdom is in your subconscious mind. It's been successfully managing your body's functions your entire life. But when you're in constant mental resistance and fear, you're actually interfering with this natural healing process. You're creating stress hormones. You're creating tension. You're sending signals to your subconscious that say sick, sick, sick. And your subconscious, which only knows how to say yes, accepts this and perpetuates it. I taught her to surrender her illness to the healing intelligence within her. Every night before sleep, she would say with deep feeling and conviction, "The infinite healing intelligence in my subconscious mind is now restoring every cell, every tissue, every organ in my body, to perfect health and harmony. My body knows how to heal itself. I trust this process completely. I release all fear. I release all resistance. I release the need to fight. I surrender to the healing power within me. Thank you for my perfect health, which is manifesting now." And then, during the day, whenever she'd catch herself in fear or resistance, whenever she'd notice herself mentally cataloging symptoms or worrying about her condition, she'd pause. She'd take a breath. And she'd resurrender. I release this to the healing intelligence within me. I trust my body's wisdom. I see myself as healthy and whole. She stopped talking about being sick. She stopped identifying as a sick person. She started affirming health, instead of confirming illness. The shift was remarkable. As her mental state changed from resistance to acceptance, from fighting to surrendering, from fear to trust, her body began to respond. The chronic tension she'd been holding began to release. Her sleep improved, because she wasn't lying awake worrying. Her digestion improved, because she wasn't in constant stress. Her pain levels began to decrease. And as she maintained this state of peaceful surrender over weeks and months, her symptoms gradually, but steadily improved. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't like magic, where she woke up one day completely healed. But it was steady, progressive improvement. Things that had been getting worse for years started getting better. After 3 months, she had more energy than she'd had in years. After 6 months, most of her symptoms were gone. After a year, her doctors were amazed. They ran tests and couldn't find evidence of the condition that had plagued her. They called it a spontaneous remission. But I could explain it. She'd stopped blocking her own healing with fear and resistance. She'd surrendered to the infinite healing intelligence within her subconscious mind, and that intelligence did what it does naturally. It healed. She told me something profound. She said, "Dr. Murphy, all those years I was fighting the illness, I was actually fighting myself. I was in a war with my own body. When I finally surrendered, when I finally trusted the wisdom within me, it was like I called a truce. And in that peace, healing could finally happen." Now let me share something very personal with you. Early in my teaching career, I was very controlling about my lectures. I would meticulously prepare, scripting almost every word, planning every point, every illustration, every story. I had notebooks full of detailed outlines. I would rehearse in front of a mirror. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect, that I didn't miss anything important, that I presented the information in exactly the right way. I thought this level of control was necessary for effective teaching. I thought I had to have everything figured out in advance. One evening, I was scheduled to give a lecture to a large audience in Los Angeles. It was an important event. Hundreds of people were coming. I had prepared extensively for weeks. My notes were detailed and complete. I felt ready. But when I arrived at the venue and reached for my briefcase to review my notes one more time before going on stage, my heart sank. The briefcase wasn't there. I'd left it at home. All my careful preparation, all my scripted words, all my planned illustrations, everything was sitting on my desk 30 miles away. There was no time to go back and get it. The audience was already seated, waiting. I had to go on stage in 10 minutes with nothing but my trust in the moment. I remember standing backstage, and I felt the fear rising. My ego mind was panicking. How can I possibly give a coherent lecture without my notes? What if I forget important points? What if I ramble? What if I disappoint these people? What if I look foolish? The old me, the controlling me, would have been paralyzed by this situation. But something happened in that moment. A calm came over me, a knowing, and I heard my own teaching echoing back to me. Surrender, trust, let go. The intelligence within you knows what to say. So I did. I said silently, Infinite Intelligence, I surrender this lecture to you. I have nothing but my trust in this moment. Speak through me. Give me the words. Show me what these people need to hear. I trust you completely. I let go of all need to control this, and I walked onto that stage with nothing prepared and everything surrendered. That lecture, my friend, was the most powerful I had ever delivered up to that point. The words flowed through me like a river. I wasn't thinking about what to say next. I wasn't worrying about whether I was covering all the right points. I was simply present, open, allowing. I spoke truths I didn't consciously know I knew. I gave illustrations that came to me in the moment, perfectly suited to that particular audience. I could feel something larger than me, working through me. The energy in the room was electric. People were leaning forward, completely engaged. Some were weeping. Others were nodding in recognition. Lives were changed that night in ways that letters and conversations in the following weeks confirmed. And afterwards, many people told me it was as if something beyond me was speaking. They said they felt like they were hearing exactly what they needed to hear, as if the lecture was personalized for them. One woman said, Dr. Murphy, how did you know to talk about that specific issue? It's exactly what I've been struggling with. And I hadn't known. I hadn't planned it. It had come through me in the moment of surrender. That experience fundamentally changed my entire approach to teaching. I realized that my best work, my most powerful impact, my truest teaching came not from ego control, but from surrendering to a wisdom greater than my conscious mind. From that moment forward, I prepared differently. I'd gather my thoughts. Yes. I'd consider the topic and what might be helpful. But then I'd surrender the actual delivery to the infinite intelligence within me. I'd trust that the right words would come in the moment, that I'd be guided to say what needed to be said in the way it needed to be said. And this has been true ever since. My teaching improved tenfold when I stopped trying to control every word and started trusting the flow of spirit through me. Do you see the pattern here? Do you see what I'm showing you through these stories? In every case, breakthrough came through surrender, not through force. The woman found love when she stopped desperately seeking it. The businessman saved his company when he stopped micromanaging it. The sick woman healed when she stopped fighting her illness. I became a better teacher when I stopped scripting every word. This is not coincidence. This is law. This is how the universe works. This is how your subconscious mind operates. Let me give you one more story before we move into the deeper principles, because I want this truth to be absolutely clear in your mind. A young man came to my lectures who was desperately seeking employment. He'd been out of work for nearly a year after being laid off from a job he'd held for 7 years. He was sending out hundreds of resumes every week, applying to everything he was even remotely qualified for, spending hours and hours every day in this search. He'd customized his resume dozens of different ways. He'd written countless cover letters. He'd networked until he was exhausted. He'd attended job fairs. He'd reached out to former colleagues, and nothing was working. He'd get a few interviews, but they'd lead nowhere. With each rejection, his anxiety grew stronger. His confidence shrank smaller. He began to feel hopeless, desperate, worthless. His savings were running out. His wife was worried. The bills were piling up, and the pressure he felt was enormous. Every morning, he'd wake up with a knot in his stomach. Another day of searching, another day of trying, another day of hoping for something that seemed to never come. He told me he'd lie awake at night, replaying interviews in his mind, wondering what he'd said wrong, beating himself up for every perceived mistake. The job search had become his entire life, consuming his thoughts, dominating his emotions, stealing his peace. I looked at this young man and I could see the desperation in his eyes, the fear, the exhaustion. And I taught him the principle of surrender, applied to his job search. I said, "You're approaching this from anxiety and lack. Every resume you send out, you're feeling the need, the desperation, the I don't have a job. And that's the vibration. That's the feeling you're sending into your subconscious mind and out into the world. Your subconscious responds to feeling, not just words. Right now, you're impressing it with lack, not abundance. You're programming it with unemployed, not employed. You're affirming the problem, not the solution. Here's what I want you to do. Every night before you sleep, when your subconscious is most receptive, say with deep conviction and feeling, 'Infinite intelligence within me now guides me to my perfect right employment. A position perfectly suited to my talents and abilities. Work that pays me abundantly, and more than adequately for my needs. People I enjoy working with in an environment that supports my growth. Doing work that fulfills me, and allows me to contribute value to the world. This is already accomplished in divine mind. The perfect position already exists. I am being guided to it, and it to me. I release all anxiety about how, or when this will manifest. I trust completely that divine intelligence is arranging this for me right now. And then, during the day, send out resumes if you feel inspired to, but not from desperation. Take action when it feels right, when you get a nudge or an impulse, but don't force it out of fear. And most importantly, stop carrying the mental and emotional burden of making it happen. That's not your job. Your job is to maintain the consciousness of perfect employment. Your job is to feel yourself as employed, valued, contributing. Your subconscious mind's job is to arrange the circumstances. Hand that burden over to the power within you. Trust it. Surrender to it. He followed this practice faithfully. Every night, he'd do his surrender ritual before sleep, and during the day. Whenever he'd catch himself in anxiety or desperation, he'd pause and resurrender. I release this to divine intelligence. I trust I'm being guided to my perfect employment. And something interesting began to happen. As he released the desperate anxiety, as he stopped the frantic, fearful searching, he began to notice things he'd been too stressed to see before. His awareness opened up. He became more present in his daily life, instead of constantly worrying about the future. One day, he was outside working in his yard, just being present, enjoying the physical activity, not thinking about job searching for once. And his neighbor, a man he'd barely spoken to in the 2 years he'd lived there, came over to chat. Just a casual, friendly conversation over the fence. "How's it going? Nice day, isn't it?" That kind of thing. In the course of the conversation, the neighbor asked how things were, and for some reason, instead of giving the usual "I'm fine" response, the young man was honest. He mentioned he'd been looking for work. The neighbor mentioned the company he worked for, how they were growing, how they just opened a new division. The young man had never thought to work in that industry. It hadn't been on his radar at all. It wasn't what he'd studied. It wasn't what his previous experience was in. But something in the conversation felt right. There was a resonance, an intuitive yes. The neighbor offered to introduce him to the hiring manager. Not out of obligation, but genuine friendliness. That introduction led to a conversation, which led to an interview, which led to a job offer. The position paid better than anything he'd been applying for. The benefits were excellent. It was closer to his home, saving him commuting time and expense. And here's the remarkable part. It was in a field he found fascinating once he learned more about it. It turned out to be a much better fit for his personality and interests than the field he'd been working in for years. He'd been so focused on finding another job like his old one that he'd never considered this direction. But divine intelligence saw a path he couldn't see. He called me afterwards, his voice filled with amazement and gratitude. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I never would have found this on my own. I wasn't even looking in this direction. I'd walked past that neighbor 100 times in 2 years, and barely said hello because I was always in my head, always worried, always distracted. The day I finally surrendered, the day I finally let go of the anxiety and was present in the moment, that's when the connection happened. And that's the point. When we surrender to the intelligence within us, we become available to opportunities we would otherwise miss. We open doors we didn't even know existed. We allow circumstances to arrange themselves in ways we could never have consciously orchestrated. Now, you're beginning to see a pattern in these stories, aren't you? There's a law at work here. Something consistent. Something you can rely on. Something that transcends individual circumstances and works universally for anyone who understands and applies it. Let me now explain to you exactly what's happening beneath the surface, and why this law of divine surrender works with scientific precision every single time it's properly applied. The law of divine surrender isn't mystical nonsense or wishful thinking. It's based on how your subconscious mind actually functions, on the structure of consciousness itself, on the relationship between thought, feeling, and manifestation. And once you understand these principles deeply, you'll never approach your desires the same way again. You'll never relate to your challenges the same way again. You'll never feel alone or burdened the same way again. So let me start with the absolute foundation of everything I'm going to teach you today. You have two minds, not one. This is not a metaphor. This is not philosophy. This is scientific fact, proven by decades of research into consciousness and brain function. You have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and they function in entirely different ways. Your conscious mind is what you're aware of right now. It's reading these words or hearing this teaching. It's thinking thoughts. It's making decisions. It's your reasoning mind, your willpower, your sense of individual self. It's the voice in your head that says, I think, I choose, I decide. Your conscious mind is marvelous and valuable, but it's extremely limited in what it can do. Your conscious mind can only focus on a few things at once. Research shows that your conscious awareness can hold about 7 pieces of information simultaneously, give or take a couple. That's it. Everything else is happening outside your conscious awareness. Your conscious mind can only see the immediate circumstances around you. It can only know what you've personally experienced or learned. It's bound by time and space in a very specific way. You can't consciously be in 2 places at once. You can't consciously know what someone across the city is thinking. You can't consciously predict, with certainty, what will happen tomorrow. Your conscious mind is like someone trying to navigate using only what they can see with their physical eyes in this exact moment, in this exact location. Your subconscious mind is entirely, radically, fundamentally different. It's the vast intelligence beneath your conscious awareness, below the surface of your thoughts. It's operating right now even as you're unaware of it. It never sleeps. It never rests. While you're consciously focused on one thing, your subconscious is processing millions of pieces of information. Right now, as you listen to me or read these words, your subconscious is managing your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, your immune function, your cellular regeneration, your hormone balance, and thousands of other bodily processes. You're not consciously directing any of this. An intelligence is doing it for you, and doing it perfectly without your interference. But your subconscious does far more than manage your body. It's connected to what I call infinite intelligence, to universal wisdom, to the collective consciousness that unites all minds. Your subconscious can access information that your conscious mind has no direct knowledge of. It can see patterns you don't consciously perceive. It can draw connections between seemingly unrelated things. It can know things you've never consciously learned. How many times have you had the experience of suddenly knowing something without knowing how you know it? That's your subconscious speaking. How many times has an answer to a problem popped into your head when you weren't even thinking about it? That's your subconscious working behind the scenes. Your subconscious mind sees not just what's in front of you, but all possibilities, all paths, all potential connections. It operates outside the normal constraints of time and space. It can put you in the right place at the right time for a meeting that changes your life. It can give you a dream that provides the solution to a problem. It can create what we call synchronicity, or coincidence. Those meaningful accidents that seem too perfect to be random. Your subconscious mind is incomprehensibly powerful, and here's the key that most people never understand. Your subconscious mind accepts whatever your conscious mind impresses upon it, and then it works continuously to manifest that impression into your experience. Let me say that again because it's the foundation of everything. Your subconscious mind accepts whatever your conscious mind habitually impresses upon it through thought and feeling, and then it works night and day, through means you cannot see, to bring that mental impression into your physical reality. This is not magic. This is not supernatural. This is how consciousness operates. This is the law of mind. Your subconscious is like the most faithful servant you could ever have. It never questions. It never argues. It never says, "Are you sure you want that?" It simply accepts what you give it, and says, "As you believe, so shall it be done unto you." The problem that 99% of people face is this. They're trying to control everything with their conscious mind alone. They're using the weakest, most limited part of their mental equipment to do the heaviest lifting. It's like trying to build an entire house with only a small hammer when you have access to an entire construction company with all the equipment, all the expertise, all the skilled workers, all the resources you could possibly need. You wouldn't intentionally do that, would you? Yet, that's exactly what you do when you try to force outcomes through conscious effort alone. When you try to figure out every detail with your limited awareness, when you refuse to surrender to the greater intelligence within you, your conscious mind can see about 1 mile ahead. Metaphorically speaking, your subconscious can see 1,000 miles. Your conscious mind knows what happened in your personal life. Your subconscious is connected to all knowledge. Your conscious mind can make plans based on what it knows. Your subconscious can arrange circumstances based on infinite possibility. Think about the absurdity of insisting on conscious control. It's like a child refusing to let an adult help them with a complex math problem, because they insist on doing it themselves, even though they don't understand the concepts yet. It's like someone, with a map of one city block, trying to navigate across the entire country, and refusing to use GPS, or ask for directions. Surrender is how you engage the more powerful mind. It's how you activate the deeper intelligence. It's how you tap into capabilities that your conscious mind doesn't possess. When you consciously choose your desire, when you clearly define what you want, when you feel it as real, when you impress it upon your subconscious with emotion and conviction, and then when you surrender the how and the when to your subconscious mind, you activate forces that can do for you what you could never do for yourself. You open channels of manifestation that your conscious mind cannot even perceive. Your conscious mind is limited to processing about 1/1,000,000th of the information that flows through your nervous system every second. Think about that staggering statistic. 1/1,000,000th. The rest is handled by your subconscious. When you try to control everything consciously, you're using 1/1,000,000th of your mental capacity and ignoring the other 99.9999%. When you surrender, you're saying, "I acknowledge my conscious limitation. I recognize that I'm using a tiny fraction of my total intelligence. I'm going to state my destination clearly with my conscious mind, but I'm going to trust you, my vast subconscious mind, my connection to infinite intelligence, to navigate the path in ways I cannot conceive." That's not weakness. That's profound wisdom. That's intelligence itself recognizing its own depth. Now let me explain to you a profound paradox that most people never grasp, and once you understand this, everything changes. Here's the paradox. Effort in the mental and spiritual realm often creates resistance rather than results. The harder you try to make something happen in consciousness, the more you push it away. I know this sounds completely backward. We're taught from childhood that more effort equals more results. If you want something, work for it. Try harder. Don't give up. And in the purely physical world, there's some truth to that. If you want to build muscle, you must exert effort lifting weights. If you want to climb a mountain, you must expend physical energy. But in the realm of mind, in the realm of consciousness and manifestation, it works in the opposite way. The more desperately you want something, the more forcefully you try to make it happen, the more you're unconsciously affirming its absence. Let me say that again because it's absolutely crucial to understand. Desperation affirms lack. When you're in a state of desperation, anxiety, and force, what are you really feeling? You're feeling, I don't have this. I need this desperately because it's missing from my life. I must make this happen because I fear it won't happen on its own. And your subconscious mind, remember, doesn't hear your words. It doesn't respond to your conscious intentions. It feels your emotional state. It reads your vibrational frequency. It accepts your dominant feeling as instruction. So when you're desperately trying to manifest something, when you're pushing and forcing and straining, you're actually impressing your subconscious with the vibration of not having it, of lack, of absence, of need. And your faithful subconscious, which only knows how to say yes, which only knows how to accept and manifest, begins creating more circumstances that match your feeling of need, more situations that reflect your vibration of lack, more evidence that you don't have what you want. This is why desperate people stay desperate. This is why anxious seeking rarely finds. This is why forcing fails. The very energy of the effort is counterproductive. Think about it in terms of relationships, which I touched on earlier, but want to go deeper into now. When someone is desperately seeking love, what happens? They give off an energy that actually repels love. People can sense neediness. They can feel desperation. And it makes them uncomfortable. It makes them pull away. The desperately lonely person goes on date after date, and wonders why nothing works, never realizing that their very desperation is the problem. But when someone is at peace with themselves, when they're content and whole on their own, when they're not desperately seeking but simply open to connection, that's when love tends to find them. Why? Because they're vibrating wholeness, not lack. They're emanating peace, not desperation. The same is true for money. When someone is desperately trying to manifest wealth, constantly worrying about bills, anxiously checking their bank account, feeling the lack of money every moment, what are they impressing on their subconscious? Poverty consciousness. Lack? Not enough. And so more lack manifests. More bills come. More unexpected expenses. But when someone cultivates a consciousness of abundance, when they're grateful for what they have, when they trust that their needs are met, when they release the desperate grasping, that's when opportunities begin to flow. That's when unexpected money appears. That's when abundance manifests. This is why forcing fails on every level. This is why the anxious, desperate approach to manifestation doesn't work, and can never work. It's working against the law, not with it. Your subconscious responds to feeling, not to effort. It responds to consciousness, not to struggle. It responds to being, not just doing. And the feeling you must cultivate, the consciousness you must maintain, is the feeling of already having what you desire. Not the feeling of chasing it. Not the feeling of needing it. The feeling of having it, being it, living it now. This is what surrender actually accomplishes. True surrender means reaching a state where you've already accepted your desire as fulfilled in consciousness. Where in your inner world, in your feeling state, in your subjective experience, you already have it. You're no longer begging the universe. You're no longer pleading with God. You're no longer forcing the situation. Because in your feeling, in your deep inner conviction, you already have it. The transaction is complete in mind. Now it's just a matter of time before it manifests in form. This is what Jesus meant when he gave us that profound teaching. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Notice the sequence carefully. He didn't say believe, and you will receive. He said believe that you have received. Past tense, already done. And it will be yours in the future. The belief that you've received it comes first. The inner acceptance comes first. The consciousness of possession comes first. The physical receiving follows as effect follows cause. The belief isn't something you work up through desperate effort or forceful affirmation. It's something you rest in through surrender. It's a state of peaceful knowing, of inner certainty, of done deal consciousness. Think about it like this. And I want to make this really clear, with an example everyone can relate to. When you order something online, you click the button to purchase, you get a confirmation email, and then what do? You go about your day. You might check the tracking once or twice out of curiosity, but you're not anxiously hovering over it. You don't sit by the door waiting every moment for the delivery truck. You don't panic if it doesn't arrive in an hour. You don't keep reordering the same item every day to make sure it's really coming. You don't worry and stress about whether the delivery truck is on the right road, or whether the warehouse properly packed your item. You trust the process. You know it's on its way. You're in a state of peaceful expectation. You have inner certainty that what you ordered is coming to you. That's divine surrender. That's the consciousness you want to cultivate for every desire. You place your order with the universe through clear intention and deep feeling. You impress your subconscious with the reality of your desire. You receive your inner confirmation through the feeling of its reality. And then you trust it's already on its way. You trust the process. You don't need to monitor every step. You don't need to control the delivery route. You don't need to panic if you don't see immediate physical evidence. You surrender the how and the when to the intelligence that's orchestrating it. You go about your life with peaceful expectation, knowing it's done in the invisible realm, and will manifest in the visible realm in perfect timing. Now let me be extremely clear about what surrender actually means in practice, because this is where most people get confused, and the confusion keeps them from experiencing the power of this principle. Surrender is not giving up. It's not passivity. It's not resignation. It's not saying I don't care anymore, or whatever happens with a sense of defeat. That's not surrender. That's giving up, and giving up comes from a place of hopelessness and defeat. True surrender comes from a place of trust and strength. True surrender is active, conscious, intentional trust. Surrender is consciously and deliberately transferring your desire from your limited conscious control to the unlimited power of your subconscious mind and the infinite intelligence that operates through it. It's a choice. It's an act of will. You're choosing to stop interfering and start cooperating. You're choosing to stop blocking and start allowing. You're choosing to stop forcing and start flowing. It's one of the most powerful choices you can ever make. What does this look like in daily practice? Let me break it down into clear steps so you can actually implement this. First, you state your desire clearly. You know what you want. You don't leave it vague or uncertain. You're specific about the end result, about what it looks like when your desire is fulfilled. Not necessarily specific about the method or the path, but specific about the destination, about the outcome, about the state you want to experience. Second, you feel it as already fulfilled. This is crucial. You don't just think about what you want. You don't just visualize it as something in the future. You generate the emotional state of having it, being it, experiencing it now. You feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If it's health you desire, you feel healthy. If it's prosperity, you feel prosperous. If it's love, you feel loved. If it's success, you feel successful. You spend time in this feeling every day, especially before sleep. You make this feeling familiar to your subconscious. Third, you hand it over to the power within you. You make a conscious declaration. I release this to infinite intelligence. I surrender this to the wisdom within my subconscious mind. I trust that it is already done in the invisible realm and will manifest in the visible realm in perfect timing. I give this to a power greater than my small self, a power that sees what I cannot see and knows what I do not know. Fourth, you release all anxiety about the how and the when. This is where most people fail. They say they surrender, But then they immediately try to figure out how it will happen, when it will happen, through what means it will happen. They start scheming and planning and forcing again. True surrender means, you stop trying to figure out the path. You stop worrying about the method. You stop being anxious about the timing. You trust that the intelligence within you knows the perfect how, and the perfect when. Your job is the what. Its job is the how. Fifth, you take inspired action when you feel guided, but you don't force or scheme out of anxiety. This is a subtle, but crucial distinction. You remain alert and responsive to intuitive nudges, to opportunities that present themselves, to ideas that come to you. When you feel genuinely inspired to do something, when something feels right in your gut, when you get a sense of this is the next step, you act on it. But this action comes from peace, from flow, from alignment. It doesn't come from panic or desperation or fear that nothing will happen unless you force it. And sixth, you maintain a peaceful, expectant state. Not a desperate, needy state. Not an anxious, worried state. Not a state of constantly checking for evidence and getting discouraged if you don't see immediate results. A calm knowing. A quiet confidence. A peaceful expectation that it's already done in causation and will manifest in form. You go about your daily life with this inner certainty, this quiet faith, this peaceful trust. This requires a foundation of trust, and I want to speak to that directly because for many people, trust is difficult. Trust is the absolute foundation of surrender. You're trusting that there's an intelligence within you that loves you, that knows what's best for you, that's conspiring for your highest good, that has the wisdom and the power to bring about what you desire, or something even better. Now, some people struggle with this because they've been hurt or disappointed. They've trusted before, and been let down. They say, how can I trust when life has let me down before? How can I trust when my prayers seem to have gone unanswered? How can I trust when I've been disappointed so many times? And I understand that. I truly do. But the trust I'm speaking of isn't trust in external circumstances. It's not trust in other people who might let you down. It's not even trust in some external deity who might or might not grant your wishes based on their mood. The trust I'm speaking of is trust in the power within you. It's trust in the same intelligence that grows an enormous oak tree from a tiny acorn, that knows how to form a complete human baby from a single fertilized cell, that orchestrates the seasons and the cycles of nature without any conscious direction. This intelligence is within you right now. It's beating your heart. It's breathing your breath. It's healing your wounds. It never makes mistakes in its operation. Can you trust it? Not blindly. Not without understanding. I'm not asking for blind faith here. I'm asking for intelligent faith based on evidence and understanding. Look at your body. Look at what it does automatically. You cut your finger, and within days it's healed. You didn't consciously direct that healing. You didn't tell your blood to clot, and your skin cells to regenerate, and your immune system to prevent infection. An intelligence did all of that for you. If this intelligence can heal your body so perfectly, can you trust it to heal your circumstances? If this intelligence can orchestrate the trillions of cellular processes happening in you every second, can you trust it to orchestrate the right opportunities and connections for your desires? Start building trust through small experiments. Don't begin by surrendering your biggest, most emotionally charged desire. Start with something smaller, something where you can more easily detach from the outcome. Surrender it completely using the process I'm teaching you, and watch what happens. Build evidence. Test the law. When you see results, your trust grows. When you have personal experience of surrender leading to manifestation, it's no longer theory or someone else's testimony, it's your experience. And with each success, your ability to trust and surrender deepens. Let me clear up some common misconceptions right now that keep people from properly applying this principle. Does surrender mean you stop taking action? No. Absolutely not. You stop anxious, forced, desperate action. You stop the kind of action that comes from fear and panic. You stop doing things because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't. But you remain open and responsive to inspired action. When you feel an impulse that comes from peace rather than panic, when you get an intuitive nudge, When an opportunity presents itself, and something in you says yes, this is right, you act on it. But this action feels different. It flows. It doesn't drain you. It energizes you. It comes from alignment, not from striving. Does surrender mean you ignore your problems? No. You address them, but from a completely different state of consciousness. You handle what needs to be handled in the physical world, while trusting that the greater intelligence is working on levels you cannot see. You pay your bills, while affirming abundance. You treat illness while affirming health. You look for employment while affirming that you're being guided to your perfect position. You don't ignore practical responsibilities. You fulfill them, but without the burden of believing it all depends on you. Without the anxiety that comes from feeling alone in your challenges. Does surrender mean you become irresponsible or passive? Absolutely not. In fact, you often become more effective and productive because you're no longer wasting enormous amounts of energy on worry and mental resistance. Think about how much energy anxiety consumes. Think about how exhausting it is to carry the weight of feeling like everything depends on you. When you surrender, that energy becomes available for constructive use. You're working with divine intelligence rather than against it or without it. You're like a sailboat that stops trying to row against the wind, and instead raises its sails to harness the wind's power. You're not doing less. You're doing differently, more efficiently, more effectively, in alignment with forces greater than yourself. Now I want to talk to you about two masters that every single person serves, whether they're aware of it or not. You cannot serve both faith and fear. Every moment of your life, every thought you think, every feeling you feel, you're choosing one or the other. You're either operating from faith, or you're operating from fear. Faith says, it is done. I trust the process. I trust the intelligence within me. I know that all things are working together for my highest good. Even when I can't see the path, I trust there is one. Even when circumstances look contrary to my desire, I know that things are being arranged in the invisible realm. All is well. Fear says the opposite. Fear says, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm fooling myself? What if nothing happens? I must control everything or it will fall apart. I must force outcomes, or I'll be left with nothing. I can't trust. I can't let go. It's all up to me and I'm not sure I'm capable. Do you see the difference? Can you feel the difference in those two states? Faith is surrender. Fear is control. And the master you serve, the state you predominantly occupy, is the one you're empowering in your life. When you operate from fear, you're impressing your subconscious mind constantly with images and feelings of what you don't want. Remember, your subconscious doesn't judge. It doesn't say, oh, you're just worrying. You don't really want this bad thing to happen. It doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you fear. It simply accepts the dominant feeling, the dominant mental imagery, the dominant consciousness, and it works to manifest that into your experience. When fear is your dominant state, when anxiety is your habitual feeling, you're literally programming for failure, for lack, for problems, for the very things you're afraid of. You're creating the experiences you dread through the power of your own consciousness focused in the wrong direction. This is not to blame you or make you feel guilty. This is to empower you with understanding. Once you know how the law works, you can work with it instead of against it. You can choose faith over fear. You can catch yourself in fear and consciously shift to faith. You can notice when you're operating from control and consciously choose surrender. This is why surrender is fundamentally an act of faith. When you surrender, you're making a declaration. I trust the intelligence within me more than I trust my limited perception. I trust the process more than I trust my ability to control outcomes. I trust that I am supported, guided, loved, and led to my highest good. This faith isn't religious dogma, though every religion speaks to it in different language. It's not about believing in a particular deity or subscribing to a particular tradition. It's practical, psychological, spiritual wisdom, based on how consciousness actually works, on the structure of mind, on the law of cause and effect in the mental realm. And here's the beautiful thing about faith. It grows through practice and experience. You don't have to start with perfect, unwavering, absolute faith. You start where you are. You start with willingness to trust, with openness to surrender, with a tiny seed of faith. You experiment with small things. You surrender something that doesn't feel overwhelming. You watch what happens. You build evidence. You test the law in your own experience. And as you see results, as you experience the power of surrender working in your life, your faith naturally grows. Your subconscious learns through experience. It learns that surrender leads to good outcomes, that trust is rewarded, that letting go allows greater forces to work. Soon you're able to surrender bigger desires, more significant challenges, with the same confidence you surrendered the small things. I want you to understand something that has been proven to me thousands of times over decades of teaching and counseling and my own personal practice. I've witnessed this law work so consistently, so reliably, that I can tell you with absolute certainty, this is not wishful thinking. This is not positive thinking for its own sake. This is scientific principle applied to consciousness. The law works for anyone who works with it, just like the law of gravity works for anyone, whether they believe in it or not. Just like mathematical principles work regardless of your religious beliefs, or lack thereof. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Muslim, or Jewish, or Buddhist, or Hindu, or atheist or agnostic. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, educated or uneducated, young or old, male or female. If you impress your subconscious mind clearly and consistently with the feeling of your desire fulfilled, if you maintain that consciousness, if you surrender the how to infinite intelligence and trust the process, it must manifest. It's law. It's as reliable as planting a seed and getting a plant if you give it water and sunlight. The seed doesn't care whether you believe in it. It grows because that's the nature of the seed. Your subconscious doesn't care whether you fully understand the process. It manifests what you impress upon it because that's the nature of mind. Your faith isn't faith in me as a teacher. Your faith isn't faith in this particular teaching or method. Your faith is faith in the power within you, in the intelligence of your own subconscious mind, in the infinite intelligence that flows through all of life. And that power has never failed anyone who truly understood how to cooperate with it. Never. Every single case of apparent failure can be traced to one of three things: not truly impressing the subconscious with the feeling of the desire fulfilled, not maintaining the consciousness long enough for it to manifest, or blocking the manifestation through continued fear and doubt and control. The law itself never fails. Only our application of it fails, and that failure is correctable through understanding. Now I want to go deeper into understanding the intelligence within you, because the more you understand this, the easier surrender becomes. Within your subconscious mind right now is an intelligence that knows more than you will ever consciously know in this lifetime. The ancient teachers across all traditions called it by many names: God within, the Christ consciousness, the Tao, Brahman, the higher self, the divine spark, the kingdom of heaven within, the Buddha nature. These are all different words pointing to the same reality. I call it infinite intelligence, and I locate it specifically in your subconscious mind because that's where you can practically access it and work with it. This isn't poetry. This isn't metaphor. This is observable, demonstrable fact. There is an intelligence operating in you right now that's connected to all knowledge, all wisdom, all creative power in the universe. Consider the evidence all around you and within you. Something within you is constantly healing. Cuts heal. Bruises fade. Infections are fought off. Bones knit back together after breaks. Organs regenerate cells. Your immune system identifies and neutralizes threats you're not even aware of. All of this happens without your conscious direction. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to understand the biochemistry. You don't have to will it into being. An intelligence does it all for you automatically, perfectly, continuously. This same intelligence is growing your hair and your nails. It's maintaining your body temperature within a very narrow range, necessary for survival despite external temperature changes. It's balancing your hormones, regulating your blood sugar, filtering toxins through your liver and kidneys, oxygenating your blood through your lungs. Right now, this very moment, there are millions and millions of processes happening in your body that your conscious mind isn't directing, and couldn't direct, even if you wanted to, because it's far too complex for conscious management. If your body can do all this automatically, with such precision and wisdom, if this intelligence can orchestrate all these trillions of cellular processes simultaneously without error, imagine what this same intelligence can do for your life circumstances when you learn to consciously cooperate with it. The same power that heals your body can heal your relationships. The same intelligence that coordinates millions of cells in perfect harmony can coordinate circumstances and opportunities for your benefit. The same wisdom that knows exactly what your body needs can guide you to exactly what your life needs. Why does this intelligence know better than your conscious mind? Let me be very clear about this. Your conscious mind sees through the keyhole of extremely limited perception. You see only what's in front of you spatially. You know only what happened in your personal past. You can project into the future only based on your past experiences and current knowledge. You're bound by time and space in your conscious awareness. You can't consciously be in two places at once. You can't consciously know what someone across town is thinking. You can't consciously see the chain of events that will unfold tomorrow. But this deeper intelligence, this subconscious connection to infinite intelligence, operates on an entirely different level. It's not bound by time in the way your conscious mind is. It can perceive patterns and connections your conscious mind cannot see. It knows timing that you don't understand. It sees relationships between events and people that seem unrelated to you. It can orchestrate coincidences and synchronicities that seem miraculous to your conscious mind, but are simply the natural operation of intelligence working on multiple levels simultaneously. Think about this. If you wanted to get from New York to Los Angeles, you could try to walk there using only what you can see right in front of you. You'd get lost. You'd go in circles. You'd waste years of your life. Or you could use a map, a GPS, a guide who knows the way. Your conscious mind is like trying to walk across the country by sight alone. Your subconscious mind connected to infinite intelligence is like having a perfect map of all possible routes, real-time information about traffic and road conditions, and the wisdom to choose the best path. Why would you insist on the first method when you have access to the second? When you surrender to this intelligence, you're accessing wisdom far beyond your individual, personal knowledge and experience. You're tapping into the infinite database of universal mind. You're connecting to a source of knowledge that sees all, knows all, can arrange all things. This is not mystical exaggeration. This is the way consciousness actually works. Your individual mind is part of a greater universal mind, just as a wave is part of the ocean. When you surrender, you're letting go of the limited perspective of the wave and tapping into the power of the entire ocean. I want you to think of this intelligence as your senior partner in life, your inner guide, your divine parent. Use whatever metaphor works for you, but get the relationship right. If you were working on a complex project with someone far wiser and more capable than yourself, someone who truly had your best interests at heart, would you micromanage them? Would you constantly second-guess their decisions? Would you try to control every detail of their work? Would you override their wisdom with your limited understanding? Of course not. That would be absurd. You'd consult with them, yes. You'd communicate your desires and goals, certainly. You'd contribute your part of the work, absolutely. But you'd trust their greater wisdom to handle what you cannot handle. You'd defer to their expertise in areas where they know more than you. You'd let them make decisions that are beyond your current understanding. That's the relationship you want to cultivate with the infinite intelligence within your subconscious mind. That's surrender. That's the partnership that unleashes miracles in your life. Here's my promise to you, and I make this promise based on decades of experience and thousands of testimonies. When you truly grasp that there's a power within you that wants your success, your happiness, your fulfillment, your highest good, and that this power has the means, the wisdom, and the desire to bring it about, surrender becomes natural. It becomes obvious. It becomes the only sane response. You stop trying to do the job of infinite intelligence. You stop exhausting yourself with control. You stop carrying burdens you were never meant to carry. You start cooperating with the power within you. You start flowing with guidance rather than fighting in ignorance. You start allowing rather than forcing. And everything changes. Now I want to address something that blocks many people from experiencing the full power of surrender, and that's attachment to outcomes. This is subtle, so listen carefully. When you're rigidly attached to specific outcomes, when you're clinging to the exact how of your manifestation, you limit the infinite ways it could come to you. You're essentially telling the universe, telling infinite intelligence, it must happen this way, and only this way, or not at all. And that resistance, that rigidity, that insistence, creates blockage in the flow. Your subconscious mind, and the infinite intelligence, working through it, can see 1,000 paths to your desire. It can see possibilities you've never considered. It can arrange circumstances in ways that would never occur to your limited conscious perception. But if you're insisting on one particular path, if you're attached to one specific method, you're closing 999 doors and forcing everything through one tiny opening. You're making manifestation much harder than it needs to be. The better, wiser, more effective approach is this. Know clearly what you want, the end result, the essence of your desire, the state you want to experience, but release all attachment to the method, to the specific way it comes. Surrender the how completely and totally. Your job, your only job, is to define the destination with clarity and feeling. The subconscious mind's job is to navigate the path, to choose the route, to orchestrate the how in ways you cannot imagine. Let me give you concrete examples to make this crystal clear. You want financial abundance. That's your destination. That's what you impress on your subconscious. You feel yourself prosperous, abundant, financially free. But don't demand that it come from your current job. Don't insist it must happen through a specific business deal you're working on. Don't try to force it through one particular investment or strategy. It might come through your current work, or it might come through a completely unexpected opportunity in a different field. It might come through a gift or inheritance you didn't anticipate. It might come through an idea that suddenly pops into your head for a new venture. It might come through someone offering you a partnership. It might come from a direction you haven't even thought of yet. When you release attachment to the method, when you surrender the how, you open all possible doors instead of just one or two. You make space for infinite intelligence to surprise you, to bring your good through the path of least resistance, through the perfect timing, and perfect means that you couldn't have planned. You want healing, perfect health. That's your destination. You impress your subconscious with the feeling of vibrant health and vitality. But don't dictate that it must happen through a particular medication or surgical procedure. Don't insist it must be this specific doctor or this specific treatment protocol. It might come through conventional medicine. It might come through alternative healing modalities. It might come through a dietary change you learn about. It might come through a supplement or herb you've never tried. It might come through spontaneous remission that doctors call miraculous, but is simply the natural healing intelligence of your body fully activated. It might come through a combination of methods. Let the intelligence within you guide you to what's right for your body. Your job is to maintain the consciousness of perfect health, and to follow the guidance you receive without forcing one particular path. You want love, a beautiful relationship, a life partner. That's your destination. You feel yourself loved, cherished, in a harmonious relationship with someone who's perfect for you. But don't insist it must be with this one specific person you have your eye on. Don't try to manipulate or control someone's free will. Don't try to force a relationship that's not flowing naturally. Affirm your desire for a loving, harmonious relationship with someone perfectly suited to you in temperament, values, and life goals, and then surrender completely to how that person comes into your life. They might be someone you already know, and circumstances might shift to bring you together. Or they might be someone you haven't met yet, and synchronicity will arrange a meeting. They might come from a direction you never expected, through a friend of a friend, at an event you almost didn't attend, in a place you wouldn't have looked. But here's what you need to understand. If you're clinging desperately to a specific person, and they're not right for you, if that relationship isn't aligned with your highest good, you're actually blocking someone, even better, from entering your life. You're closing the door on possibilities you can't yet see, because you're fixated on one limited option. Do you see the freedom in this? Do Do you see how much pressure it takes off you? You don't have to figure out every detail. You don't have to plan every step. You don't have to control every variable. You get to define what you want. You get to feel it real. You get to impress it on your subconscious. And then you get to release the burden of the how to an intelligence that sees further, knows more, and can orchestrate better than you ever could from your limited vantage point. There's a beautiful freedom in non-attachment. When you release attachment to specific outcomes, to the exact how and when, and through whom, you free yourself from so much anxiety. Think about how much mental and emotional energy you spend worrying about the details. How will this happen? When will it happen? What do I need to do to make it happen? Should I do this or that? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I miss my chance? All of that anxiety disappears when you truly surrender. You're no longer worried about controlling every detail, because you've handed that impossible job over to a power that's actually capable of handling it. And here's the beautiful, profound irony, the divine paradox that never ceases to amaze me. When you stop clinging desperately to what you want, when you release the tight grip of control and grasping, it comes to you more easily. Desperation repels. Clinging pushes away. Need creates distance. But peaceful certainty attracts. Confident expectation draws near. Trust opens the channels for manifestation. Think about it in human relationships. If someone is clinging to you desperately, needing you, unable to function without you, demanding your constant attention and validation, how does that feel? Suffocating, right? It makes you want to pull away. But if someone enjoys your company without needing you desperately, if they're whole and complete on their own and simply want to share life with you, that's attractive. That draws you in. The same principle operates in manifestation. Desperate need pushes away what you desire. Peaceful certainty, joyful expectation, trusting surrender, these states attract what you desire. I like to summarize this principle in a simple phrase that I want you to remember. Surrender the how, trust the wow. Your conscious mind provides the what you desire, what you're seeking, what you want to experience. Your subconscious mind connected to infinite intelligence provides the wow, the amazing, surprising, often better than you imagined way it manifests. Your part is clarity about the destination. Its part is the journey, the path, the orchestration of circumstances. I've seen this happen so many thousands of times in my own life, and in the lives of people I've counseled. People surrender a desire with complete trust, and it comes to them in ways that make them say, I never would have thought of that. I couldn't have planned this if I tried. This is better than what I was asking for. That's the wow. That's what happens when you stop limiting infinite intelligence with your small plans and limited perception. That's what becomes possible when you get out of the way and let something far greater than your ego self work on your behalf. Now, you understand the principles. You see the logic. You see the evidence. You can feel the truth of what I'm saying. But understanding isn't enough, is it? Knowledge without application is useless. You want to know, how do I actually do this in my daily life? How do I surrender when my mind wants to worry? How do I let go when my problems feel urgent? How do I trust when fear keeps creeping in? Let me give you a practical, specific method you can start using today, tonight, this very evening. The practice of divine surrender is simple, but it must become a daily habit, a routine practice, a discipline. You're reprogramming a lifetime of ego control, anxiety, and fear-based thinking. You're building new neural pathways, establishing new habitual patterns of thought and feeling. Be patient with yourself through this process, but also be consistent. Consistency is more important than perfection. It's better to practice imperfectly every day than to practice perfectly once in a while. Here's what I want you to do every single night before you sleep. This is your evening surrender ritual, and I cannot overemphasize how important this is. This one practice alone, done consistently, can transform your entire life. Every night, when your subconscious mind is most receptive, when the barrier between conscious and subconscious is thinnest, when your brain waves are in alpha and theta states that are perfect for impression, Perform this ritual, without exception. Get comfortable in your bed. Lie down in a position where you can completely relax. Close your eyes gently. Take several deep breaths to relax your body. Breathe in slowly through your nose, feeling your belly rise. Hold for a moment. Breathe out slowly through your mouth, feeling all tension leave your body. Do this at least 3 times, or as many times as you need to feel your body beginning to relax. Let the tension leave your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench. Let your face soften. Let your entire body sink into the bed. Now, bring to mind whatever you're desiring, or whatever problem you're currently facing. Don't push it away, or pretend it doesn't exist. Acknowledge it clearly. See it in your mind. Feel the desire, or recognize the challenge. Be honest about it. Then, with full intention, and as much feeling as you can muster, say either out loud, or silently with conviction, I now surrender this completely to the infinite intelligence within me. I release all concern about how or when this will be resolved or manifested. I release all need to control the outcome. I release all anxiety about the path. I hand this over completely to the wisdom and power of my subconscious mind, which is connected to infinite intelligence. I trust that divine wisdom is working on my behalf right now, even as I speak these words. As you say these words, as you make this declaration, don't just recite mechanically. Really imagine the feeling of relief. Really feel what it would be like if you could hand this heavy burden to someone infinitely capable, someone who loves you and wants the best for you, someone who has the wisdom and power to handle it perfectly. Imagine your burden as a heavy pack you've been carrying, and you're setting it down, taking it off your shoulders. Feel your shoulders physically relax. Feel the weight lift from your chest. Feel the tightness in your stomach unclench. Feel the tension in your jaw and forehead release. This feeling, this emotional and physical state of relief and release, is crucial. It's the language your subconscious understands. It's the impression you're making. Then affirm with deep conviction, it is done. My desire is already fulfilled in divine mind. The solution to my problem already exists in the invisible realm. While I sleep tonight, while my conscious mind rests, infinite intelligence is arranging all things, orchestrating all circumstances, drawing all necessary elements together for my highest good. I sleep in complete peace, knowing that this is already accomplished in the realm of consciousness, and it's only a matter of time before it manifests in the realm of form. I am safe. I am guided. I am loved. All is well. Now, and this is critical, let go completely. Don't immediately start thinking about your problem again. Don't start planning, or scheming or worrying. Don't let your mind go back to how will this happen, or when will this happen. Just let go. Release it. Drift into sleep with this feeling of peaceful trust, of completed action, of burden released. Think of pleasant things if you want. Review the blessings in your life if that helps. Or simply sink into drowsy relaxation, without thinking of anything in particular. The key is to maintain that feeling of peaceful surrender as you drift into sleep. Why does this practice work so powerfully? Why do I emphasize this so strongly? Because your subconscious mind is most impressionable, most receptive, most suggestible. As you fall asleep, the conscious mind, with all its doubt and questioning and resistance, is shutting down. The critical factor that usually filters and rejects suggestions is becoming inactive. The barrier between conscious and subconscious is at its thinnest. Whatever you impress upon your subconscious, in this drowsy state between waking and sleeping, this hypnagogic state, is accepted deeply and powerfully. And while you sleep, while your conscious mind is completely quiet and out of the way, your subconscious works on solutions you couldn't consciously conceive. It processes, it connects, it arranges, it accesses infinite intelligence. It draws to you what you need. It moves you toward your desire. It works on your behalf in ways you'll never consciously perceive or understand. This is why so many people wake up with solutions to problems they surrendered the night before. This is why insights and ideas often come first thing in the morning. The answer came while they slept because the conscious interference was removed and the subconscious could work freely. Do this every single night for at least 30 days. without exception. I don't care how tired you are. I don't care if you think you don't have time. This takes 5 minutes, maybe 10, if you really sink into it. Make it non-negotiable. Make it as important as brushing your teeth or eating dinner. This is your daily surrender practice, and if you do this consistently, faithfully, with feeling and conviction, every single night for 30 days, you will see changes in your life. You will see evidence of this law working. And once you see evidence, your faith will deepen, your ability to surrender will strengthen, and you'll want to continue this practice for the rest of your life. But here's the challenge you'll face, and I want to prepare you for it. During the day, your ego, mind will try to take back control. This is inevitable. This is normal. This is part of the process. You'll wake up in the morning, and within an hour or two, you'll catch yourself worrying about the very thing you surrendered the night before. You'll catch yourself trying to figure it out. You'll catch yourself scheming and planning, and trying to force outcomes. You'll catch yourself in anxiety, in doubt, in fear. This doesn't mean you're failing. This doesn't mean surrender isn't working. This is simply the old pattern reasserting itself. This is your habitual way of thinking trying to maintain its dominance. The practice during the day is learning to catch yourself and consciously, deliberately resurrender. This is the daytime practice that complements the evening ritual. So here's what you do. Whenever you notice yourself in anxiety, whenever you catch yourself trying to force or control, whenever you feel fear or worry creeping in about your surrendered desire, pause. Just pause, whatever you're doing. Stop the mental spiral. Take 3 deep breaths, right then and there. Breathe slowly and consciously. Then say silently or out loud, I release this again. I surrender this again to infinite intelligence. I let go of this worry. I hand this back to the power within me. I trust. Feel the relief of letting go, even if just for a moment. Affirm briefly, Divine wisdom is handling this far better than I could. And then return to your present moment, to whatever you were doing, without the burden of that concern. You may need to do this 10 times a day, at first. 20 times. 30 times. Some days, you might need to resurrender the same thing dozens of times as fear keeps trying to retake control. That's okay. That's perfect. That's the practice. Each time you catch yourself and consciously resurrender, you're building a new neural pathway. You're weakening the old pattern and strengthening the new one. You're training your mind to default to trust instead of fear, to surrender instead of control. Think of it like training a muscle. The first time you lift a weight, it's difficult. The muscle is weak. But each time you lift, the muscle gets a tiny bit stronger. Eventually, what was difficult becomes easy. What required intense effort becomes natural. It's the same with surrender. At first, letting go feels nearly impossible. Fear feels stronger than faith. Control feels safer than trust. But each time you practice surrender, each time you consciously choose trust over fear, you strengthen that capacity. Eventually, surrender becomes your default response. Eventually, trust feels more natural than anxiety. Be gentle with yourself through this process. Don't judge yourself harshly when you catch yourself in fear or control mode. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think, I'm failing at this. I can't seem to surrender. This is just more evidence that I'm not spiritual enough. No. The very fact that you're catching yourself means you're becoming more aware. Awareness is the first step to change. Celebrate the catching. Then practice the resurrendering. That's the work. That's the path. Let me teach you another practice that beautifully embodies surrender and accelerates your results. Gratitude. Gratitude is surrender in action. When you thank infinite intelligence for already providing your desire, when you thank your subconscious mind for already bringing about the solution, you're surrendering to its reality before you see physical evidence. You're accepting it as done. You're living from the end, as I like to say. You're dwelling in the consciousness of the wish fulfilled. This practice is incredibly powerful. Every morning, when you wake, and every evening before your surrender ritual, spend just 2 or 3 minutes in deep gratitude for your desire, as if it's already fulfilled, as if it's already accomplished, as if you're already experiencing it. Not as a future hope. Not as something you're wishing for. As present reality. As accomplished fact. Don't say, I hope I'll get this someday. Don't say, I really wish this would happen. Don't say, it would be nice if I could have this. Say with conviction and feeling, thank you, infinite intelligence, for my perfect health. Thank you for my abundant prosperity. Thank you for my harmonious, loving relationships. Thank you for guiding me to my highest good in every situation. Thank you for my perfect right employment. Thank you for the creative ideas that flow through me. Thank you for the love that fills my life. And you for the love that fills my life. Thank you for the peace that surrounds me. Feel the gratitude. This is absolutely crucial. Don't just recite words mechanically, like you're reading a grocery list. Feel genuine gratitude, as if these things are real right now, as if you truly have them and you're deeply thankful. What would it feel like to be grateful for perfect health after years of illness? What would it feel like to be grateful for abundant prosperity after financial struggle? What would it feel like to be grateful for love after loneliness? Get into that feeling. Live in that feeling. Make it real in your inner world. This feeling, this emotional state, is the language your subconscious understands. Words without feeling are empty, but words with genuine feeling impress the subconscious powerfully. And here's why this practice is perfect surrender. Gratitude assumes the answer is already given. When you're grateful, you're not begging or pleading. You're not asking or hoping or wishing. You're not in a state of lack or need. You're thanking because you already have it in consciousness. You're grateful because it's done. The transaction is complete in the inner world. Now it's just a matter of time before it objectifies in the outer world. This is complete surrender. This is the consciousness of the answered prayer. This is living from the end instead of in the problem. This is resting in the solution, instead of struggling with the challenge. Now, I need to address something that confuses many people, and that's the relationship between surrender and action. I want to be absolutely clear about this because misunderstanding here can cause either passivity on one hand, or anxious striving on the other hand, and neither of these is correct surrender. Surrender absolutely does not mean you sit on the couch doing nothing, while waiting for miracles to drop from the sky. That's not surrender. That's abdication of responsibility. That's laziness masquerading as spirituality. True surrender doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerfully responsive. Surrender means you take action, when inspired, when guided, when you feel the inner nudge, but not from anxiety or force, not from fear or desperation. There's a crucial, life-changing difference between forced action and inspired action. Learn to distinguish between these two, and your life will transform. Forced action feels heavy. It feels like pushing a boulder uphill. It feels anxious. It's driven by fear of what will happen if you don't act. It's you trying to make something happen, trying to force an outcome, trying to control circumstances. There's strain in it, tension, pressure, desperation. You feel like you have to do this, or else. It drains your energy. It exhausts you. Even when you achieve results through forced action, you're worn out and the results often don't last or don't satisfy. Inspired action feels entirely different. It feels light. It feels natural. It's like flowing downstream instead of paddling upstream. It's like a gentle nudge or an intuitive knowing. It comes from peace, not panic. It comes from clarity, not confusion. It comes from trust, not fear. It's not you trying to make something happen. It's you cooperating with what wants to happen through you, as you, for you. There's ease in it, flow, rightness. You feel like, yes, this is the next step. Even if the action itself is challenging, the impulse to do it feels right in your gut, in your heart, in your knowing. How do you tell the difference in practice? Pay very careful attention to how you feel when the impulse to act arises. If the impulse comes with anxiety, if it comes with thoughts like I must do this, or everything will fall apart, I have to make this happen, or I'll lose my chance. I should do this even though it doesn't feel right, because what if I'm wrong? That's probably forced action coming from fear. But if the impulse comes with a sense of rightness, of yes, this feels good, of this is the next step, of I'm being guided to do this, That's likely inspired action, coming from alignment with your inner wisdom. After you've surrendered your desire in your evening ritual, after you've handed it over to infinite intelligence, stay alert during the day for guidance. Stay present and aware. The guidance might come as a sudden idea or insight that pops into your head seemingly out of nowhere. You'll be doing something unrelated, and suddenly you think, I should call that person, or I should look into this opportunity, or I should go to that event, or I should try this approach. That's not random. That's your subconscious mind, connected to infinite intelligence, giving you a nudge. The guidance might come as a coincidental meeting or conversation. You bump into someone unexpectedly, and they mention something that gives you an idea or an opportunity. That's not mere chance. That's orchestration. That's your subconscious arranging synchronicity. The guidance might come as an opportunity that presents itself seemingly out of the blue. Someone offers you something. You hear about an opening. A door appears where there was a wall. That's not luck. That's the law working. The guidance might come as a feeling that you should do something, go somewhere, read something, try something, even if you don't understand why. You feel drawn to attend an event. You feel an urge to take a different route home from work. You feel like you should pick up a particular book in a bookstore. Don't dismiss these impulses. Don't overthink them. When you feel genuinely inspired, when something feels right even if you can't explain why, act on it. Don't analyze it to death. Don't talk yourself out of it with logic. Trust the nudge. This is your subconscious guiding you, and it speaks through intuition, through that still small voice, through synchronicity and meaningful coincidence. But, and this is equally important, if nothing feels inspired in a given day or week, rest in the surrender. Don't force action out of anxiety just to feel like you're doing something. Don't manufacture opportunities out of fear. Trust the timing. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait in peaceful expectation while invisible forces arrange circumstances on your behalf. Sometimes the best action is patient, non-action. Sometimes you're being called to simply be still and know, to rest in faith while things you cannot see are being orchestrated. Your primary job, your main responsibility, is to maintain the consciousness of your desire fulfilled, and to keep resurrendering when fear creeps in. That's the foundation. That's the essential work. Everything else, all the outer actions, all the physical steps, all the opportunities and connections, these will unfold naturally from that consciousness. You don't have to figure out every step in advance. You don't have to see the whole staircase before you take the first step. You just need to take the next step when it's illuminated for you, when you feel the guidance, when the way becomes clear. Trust this process. Have faith in it. It's not about doing more. It's not about being busy. It's about being more peaceful, more trusting, more aligned with the power within you, more available to guidance, more surrendered to the intelligence that knows the way even when you don't. My dear friend, we've covered a great deal of ground today, and I hope you can feel the truth of what I've been sharing with you. Let me bring all of this together for you now, so you can walk away with clarity and conviction. Everything I've taught you today comes down to this one simple, profound truth that will change your life if you accept it and live by it. You are not alone in your struggles. You were never meant to be alone. You have within you, right now in this very moment, an infinite intelligence that knows the way forward, that sees the path you cannot see, that has the power to bring about what you desire in ways you cannot imagine. Your job is not to carry the burden alone. Your job is to surrender it to this greater power. Doing nothing, that sacred, powerful act of divine surrender, activates everything. Not because you're lazy, or passive, or irresponsible, but because you're finally allowing the greatest power in the universe to work through you, instead of being blocked by your anxious interference, instead of being limited by your small plans, instead of being hindered by your desperate control. When you stop trying to control everything with your limited conscious mind, when you stop exhausting yourself with force and strain and worry, you discover that everything you need is already being arranged for you by an intelligence that loves you, knows you, wants the best for you, and has the power to bring it about. You can leave this teaching and continue as you were, struggling, forcing, exhausting yourself, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, lying awake at night trying to figure everything out. Or you can choose a different path right now, in this moment. You can choose to trust, to surrender, to let go, to release the burden you were never meant to carry. And when you do, you'll discover a peace so profound, a flow so natural, a grace so beautiful, that you'll wonder why you resisted it for so long. This peace is your birthright. This flow is your natural state. This grace has always been available to you. You just didn't know how to access it. Now you do. I want to give you words that you can carry with you from this teaching, words that you can use every single day to anchor yourself in the consciousness of surrender. I want you to say this affirmation every morning when you wake. Say it every night before you sleep. Say it whenever fear creeps in, and you feel yourself trying to take back control. Say it when you catch yourself worrying, or forcing or striving anxiously. Say it with feeling, with conviction, with trust. Let it become part of you. Let it reprogram your subconscious. Let it establish a new default setting for your consciousness. Here are the words. I surrender to the infinite intelligence within me. I trust its perfect wisdom completely, and without reservation. I release all anxiety about how my good will come to me. I release all concern about the timing of my manifestation. I rest in the absolute knowledge that my desire is already fulfilled in divine mind and is now manifesting in perfect timing in my physical reality. Divine intelligence is working on my behalf, in this moment and every moment, arranging all things for my highest good. I am safe. I am guided. I am loved. I am supported by the entire universe. All is well in my world. And so it is. Say these words. Mean these words. Feel these words. Let them sink into your consciousness. They're not just sounds. They're truth. They're the truth of your being. They're the reality of your existence. You are connected to infinite power right now, as you read or hear these words. You have access to infinite wisdom right now. You are supported by infinite love right now. You don't have to earn it through good behavior. You don't have to struggle for it through hard work. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of it. You just have to accept it, open to it, surrender to it, and let it flow through your life. I believe in you. Not because I know you personally, because I don't. But I know the power that dwells within you, because it's the same power that dwells within me, within everyone, within all of life. It's the universal life force, the creative intelligence that manifests worlds, that spins galaxies, that knows how to create an entire universe from a single point. And this infinite power is individualized in you, as you, working through your subconscious mind. This power never fails when we cooperate with it, when we align with it, when we surrender to it instead of fighting against it, or trying to do its job with our limited conscious mind. So I'm asking you, today, right now, to give yourself permission to stop carrying the weight of the world. Give yourself permission to release the burden of believing it all depends on you. Give yourself permission to trust in something greater than your small self. You were never meant to figure everything out alone. You were never designed to control every outcome with your conscious willpower. You have a partner, a guide, an infinite intelligence within you that's been waiting, perhaps your whole life, for you to finally surrender to it, to finally trust it, to finally let it work on your behalf. If this teaching resonated with you, if something within you recognized this truth, if you felt that yes, this is what I've been searching for, then I want to ask you to do something for me. First, subscribe to this channel, so you don't miss future teachings that will deepen your understanding of how your subconscious mind works, of how consciousness operates, of how to live in harmony with divine laws that govern your life. There's so much more to explore together, so many more principles to understand, so many more practical applications to discover. Second, and this is important, leave a comment below. Share your experience with surrender. Tell us your story. Have you ever experienced a miracle when you finally let go of control? Have you seen evidence of this law working in your own life? Can you think back to times when surrender led to breakthrough? Or what are you choosing to surrender today after hearing this teaching? What burden are you choosing to release right now? What are you handing over to infinite intelligence? Your testimony matters more than you know. It might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that leap of faith, to finally trust, to release their grip on control. Your story could be the encouragement that helps another person finally surrender their burden and discover the peace and power that comes from trusting the intelligence within. So please, share, contribute to this community of people, learning to live by higher laws, learning to cooperate with the power within, learning to surrender to divine intelligence. And if you found value here, if this teaching helped you in any way, if you feel even slightly different than you did 80 minutes ago when we began, a simple like on this video helps tremendously. It helps this message reach others who are struggling, others who are exhausted from trying to control everything, others who are carrying burdens they don't need to carry, others who need to hear that they can stop trying so hard and simply let go, simply trust, simply surrender. You might be the reason this teaching reaches someone who desperately needs it. You might be the link in the chain that brings this message to someone who's at the end of their rope, someone who's about to give up, someone who needs to know there's a different way. So please, if this resonated, click that like button. It takes 1 second, and it makes a tremendous difference in how many people this teaching can reach. Go now in peace, my friend. Go with the absolute certainty that you are not alone. Surrender your burdens to the infinite intelligence within your subconscious mind. Trust the process with your whole heart, not just your head. Take inspired action when you feel guided, when something feels right, when you get that inner nudge. But release all anxiety about outcomes. Release all desperate grasping. Release all fearful control. Maintain the consciousness of your desire fulfilled. Live from the end. Dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And watch in wonder. Watch with childlike amazement as everything you need begins to flow to you naturally, effortlessly, beautifully, often from directions you never expected, often in ways better than you imagined, often with perfect timing that you couldn't have planned. The law of divine surrender is working for you now and always. It's not something you have to earn or prove yourself worthy of. It's your birthright, as an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. Accept it. Embrace it. Live from it. Let it transform every area of your life. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being open to this teaching, for being willing to consider a different approach, for being brave enough to let go of control and trust something greater than yourself. Until we meet again in another teaching, may your life be filled with peace that surpasses understanding, with grace that flows effortlessly, and with miraculous manifestations that prove to you, beyond any doubt, that when you surrender to infinite intelligence, when you get out of the way, when you do nothing in the sense of releasing control, everything you need activates and flows to you. The power is within you now. Trust it. Surrender to it. Let it work. All is well. It is done. Amen and amen.